know who you are at the heart of you, because then you can move forward with clarity of who you are and confidence in taking that next step. And sometimes it's just finding that confidence to live fully where you are right now, because you are living in that sweet spot. So the core is this. Basically, you lean into what are your core characteristics and convictions. So you basically identified the top 3 to 5 values, pull that in. And then the O is the operating, your optimal operating strengths and opinions. This is where I really think the sweet spot is, because what I like people to do is do things faster, not slow. Don't be like me. Don't take decades to figure this out. Take advantage of all the psychologists who are curious about how humans work. Do personal assessments. The top 2 that I really like are the Clifton Strengths, because it works from the premise of identifying what your talents are. Stop working to be like the person next to you. Be you. Discover what you do best and like build into that. And then the other is the Maxwell method of DISC, because it's a personality and communication we need in everything that we do.
Sure. Yeah.
And you can marry those together, and then you're empowering yourself to go to greater heights. You're empowering yourself with new clarity and confidence, because it confirms what you already know, or it makes you aware of things that you weren't aware of before. And then the R is responsible attention and responsible response. That's where our communication comes in. Why do we respond the way that we respond? Do we run to stressful situations, or do we go and hide? It's just personal awareness is really what the core is about. And then the final is the esteem and ego. You have to love who you are. And you can only love who you are and take that love into this world and make it a better place if you love yourself.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of just that wrapping up and going, you're unique. And people are like, well, what's the best, strengths to have? And what's the best personality, to have for DISC? And I'm like, your style.
Yeah. Yeah.
The world needs you. My dinner table, when I grew up, it was a fun table. My mom wasn't the best cook, but she did her best.
Yeah.
And like, she grew up and the big meal was macaroni and cheese around her table. And so the best story, I think, is in the invitation of my husband to the first dinner at our home. And my mom made scalloped potatoes and ham, and there was too much pepper in it, but my husband still put pepper.
Oh, you wanted more, huh?
Well, he hadn't tasted it yet.
Okay.
So that was kind of my husband's introduction to, okay, your mom can't cook, but I'm going to just believe that you can. But it was conversational. Family dinners were important. I grew up with one younger brother, and we grew up in a small town and lived on a lake. So it was usually rushed so we could get back outside.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys lived your lives outside, I'm assuming. Yeah. Yeah. It's the same way we grew up. We grew up by a lake too. And we were always out playing, swimming, catching things in bottles and all that stuff. Yeah. Good times.
Yes.
So would you say that you were exposed to any type of entrepreneurialism or anything like that growing up at all? Or is that something that hit you later on in life?
I didn't know what it was called, but my dad was an entrepreneur.
Okay. What did he do?
He started a energy business.
Wow.
So when they first started out with like the little, they were called no watts, and they would connect to light bulbs.
Okay.
And they would save like these big warehouses tons of money in energy costs. And so he did that, and I was his bookkeeper. And how
old were you when you were doing the bookkeeping?
I was in high school.
Wow.
And so, yeah. So I wasn't like the financial bookkeeping, but I was like doing all the invoices and recording stuff.
Well, still that gives you, quite a leg up, just being able to see sort of the inner workings of how a business works, money in, money out, expenses, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah. And then and that was on the side because he actually was a real estate entrepreneur, and he
Okay.
owned lots of home, like apartments for students at Michigan State University.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Is
So
that where you guys grew up at? Was this in Michigan?
yeah, I grew up just outside of East Lansing there. And my other job was helping clean up after college students as they moved out,
Yeah.
and mowing lawns and painting and all sorts of things. So one of the things that I learned later in life about my parents was they were voted the number one, uh, what, not tenants, but the landlords for that
Okay.
area.
Okay.
So
So
I
they people appreciated what they were doing, in their communities and that, huh?
Yeah. And I think it's because they brought their faith into what they did. So we
Hmm.
grew up as a Christian family, um, and they brought that into, they saw it as a service to the
Hmm.
students, not
Hmm.
the students were doing something for them by renting their property.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great perspective, in any business really, that you're serving other people, and you hear people say that now and then, but it's a great reminder to kind of take a step back and make sure that if you do have a business that you are, there trying to serve other people, and, it's not, you know, they're trying to make money. It's, the service side of things is first. So that's a great reminder, great perspective.
Yeah.
So what happened? Did you go to college? Did what were some of the next steps that you took, in your upbringing to bring you to where you got into today, or what were, where you're at today?
Oh, that's a fun question, Matt. So I was the first in my family to go to college.
Okay.
And when I went to college, I thought that I was going to go to college, get my degree to be a teacher, and then I was going to come back to my hometown and live happily ever after in my hometown as a teacher. And because that's what I grew up pretending I was, a teacher.
Yeah.
And I had that passion. But fast forward, I come out of college and literally when I graduate, I am a homeowner.
Okay.
I am an Army wife. I'm a commissioned second lieutenant. And no, I'm not teaching. I have a degree in public health education with a minor in business administration.
Very cool. Very cool.
So, yeah, you just never know where life is going to take you once you take that one step.
Yeah. Yeah. And what were some of your next steps that you started taking? Obviously, the Army was there. You had some schooling, in business and that. Did you start any companies earlier on, and I guess make them grow, or was it not till later on that you started, pursuing that side of things?
I did not start, well, I tried. So I was active in the Army for 5 years. And so
Hmm.
that was a lot of fun. So being a dual military and moving around, that was fun. And then when I got out, I was trying to figure out who I was. Because when I got
Right.
out, it was time to start the family. So I was pregnant with our first child. And so I thought I would become a Mary Kay consultant.
Okay.
I am not a salesperson in that way, but you got to try things to
Yeah.
find out what you're good
Exactly.
at, not.
Yeah.
And I think it was my dad's entrepreneur spirit within him that just made me go, okay, you got to be doing something. You got to be doing something. And so I literally went on this journey for years trying to figure out what exactly am I
Mhm.
supposed to be doing now, and trying to reestablish my identity because I think a lot of people don't realize it, but we attach and tie our identity to what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I went on this like self-help journey, and I consider myself a self-help junkie. And then finally I realized you are not what you do, Sherry.
Mhm.
You have to get in touch with who you are at the heart of you. And once I actually took the time to do that, because it was like move after move, I kept on thinking, oh, I'll find myself this next place.
Mhm.
Never did, until I really dove into to find out who I was at the heart of me and realized that I bring something unique to everything that I choose to do. Because I did a lot of volunteering. So I was really involved with leadership, Protestant Women at Chapel, which is the women's Bible study, and really just bringing teams together And I didn't realize it, but I was using my degree all along because I was educating women. I was running a small business because we did have a pretty decent budget.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, and so all those little experiences, led to, once I finally, my kids were grown, and I was told that a presentation that I had presented needed to become a Bible study.
Okay. Okay.
And I was like, what? And so I dove into that. And in the process of really diving into that, I realized that I had discovered, like your podcast says, a secret sauce.
Mhm.
That leaning into your own personal identity and untying yourself from what you do as being who you are, defining who you are, is really important, because
Mhm.
what that does is you're able to take that into whatever you do. So like my dad did with his, entrepreneurship, he took his faith into what he does.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I've developed what I call my strong core process.
Okay.
And I help people through this um, identify who they are at the heart of them,
Mhm.
recognize that everything that they do is an enhancement to who they are, and they take who they are into it. So like our role, we look at our roles, our relationships, activities, and groups. Those are like our uniform and shoes. We step into them because we identify with them. They don't identify us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's kind of the direction that I went. And that kind of led me into, okay, I'm going to start a business because people need to know about this.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And there's a lot to unpack there. I think, starting off, I'm curious, like there's obviously a lot of people that are unhappy with what it is that they're doing today. And I think that there's a couple of different types of people. There's certain people that, may not necessarily want, they're not happy, but they may not necessarily want to change or know how to change. And then there's the other people that maybe much like yourself, that you always felt unfulfilled, with whatever it is that you were doing, and you didn't feel like it was a good use of your time. Can you talk a little bit about, I guess, how do you identify if you are in the spot that you feel like you should be in? I mean, even if maybe you're in a job that you're completely happy with, but there's something else that you feel like there might be some other interest there. Is there any type of I guess identifier that you can say, or maybe this is even part of your process, that let's explore what other options I may have, or is there something else? If that question is there something else better for me? Is there any type of self-exploration or anything that you can do to help sort of uncover that, or start to move in a direction that might be more aligned with what your innate ability or innate um, purpose should be? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And actually it totally aligns with my core process. So I live in acronyms. and
Okay.
and I live in acrostics. And so I created an acrostic to help people move through this. And to exactly what you said, you feel the sensing that there's more. You're
Mhm.
you're like feeling stuck, and you're wondering, okay, is this all that there is to my life? Am I really living to my full potential? And then some people are like, oh my goodness, I am so unhappy. I'm
Mhm.
overwhelmed and I don't know what to do next. And that's where I like to pull people in and say, okay, just go through this core process discovery. Know who you are at the heart of you, because
Mhm.
then you can move forward with clarity of who you are and confidence in taking that next step. And sometimes it's just finding that confidence to live fully where you are right now, because you are living in that sweet spot. So the core
Mhm.
is this. Basically, you lean into what are your core characteristics and convictions. So you basically identified the top 3 to 5 values. pull that in. And then the O is the operating, your optimal operating strengths and opinions. This is where I really think the sweet spot is, because what I like people to do is do things faster, not slow. Don't be like me. Don't take decades to figure this out. Take advantage of all the psychologists who are curious about how humans work. Do personal assessments. The top two that I really like are the Clifton Strengths, because it works from the premise of identifying what your talents are. Stop working to be like the person next to you. Be you. Discover what you do best and like build into that. And then the other is the Maxwell method of DISC, because it's a personality and communication, we need in everything that we do.
Sure. Yeah.
And you can marry those together, and then you're empowering yourself to go to greater heights. You're empowering yourself with new clarity and confidence, because it confirms what you already know, or it makes you aware of things that you weren't aware of before. And then the R is responsible attention and responsible response. That's where our communication comes in. You know, why do we respond the way that we respond? Do we run to stressful situations, or do we go and hide? It's just personal awareness is really what the core is about. And then the final is the esteem and ego. You have to love who you are. And you can only love who you are and take that love into this world and make it a better place if you love yourself.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of just that wrapping up and going, you're unique. And people are like, well, what's the best, strengths to have? And what's the best personality, to have for DISC? And I'm like, your style.
Yeah. Yeah.
The world needs you.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you go through this process of, I guess, creating this menu of these different traits that are innate to you. Once you have this list of personality traits, or menu of how you evaluate or how you deal with different situations, is there a way to be able to plug that into, like, your personality is tends to like these types of positions or this type of job or whatever it might be, so you create your menu and then you kind of plug yourself into whatever that position tells you?
Well, and that's where, since I'm an executive director with the John Maxwell team, I have all of these tools that they have created, that if that's what you're looking for, I have the ability to say, okay, let's head on over to this menu and we can dig deeper into that. Usually people go through this process and light bulbs start coming on. They get confirmation. They know what they really, if you go to my masterclass, I help people like dig into their why. Not only do they know who, next is the why I'm here, and the what am I supposed to be doing with it. And I didn't really mention it, but the foundation to really discovering your core and being able to live your life with greater purpose is knowing your spiritual foundation. Because if you don't come to this looking from a place of hope, you're not going to be open to receive all that you're going to receive about yourself. And when we don't have hope in a higher divine power, it's hard for us to have a positive self-esteem.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that's an interesting point about, your mindset coming into something like this. And I'm sure that you've probably run across the people that, they're, again, unhappy with whatever it is that they're doing today. And I would assume that a lot of people's main motivation is the money side of things. I want to make more money. I want to, be more profitable. Do you feel like those types of people are sort of setting themselves up for failure if they're coming in, what else can I do to make more money? Or is that sort of part of this evolution where you sort of, open up their mind to the other side of things? Like you said, you want to come in, with this hope mentality and this ability to be able to see what else, potentially could be there. So I guess the question is, coming into this, starting this, is there the monetary mindset that would sort of block your ability to be able to see, what the true potential is, or is there a different, I guess, what is the best way, the best type of mindset to come into, to embrace this type of a change that you're looking for in your life? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And I just want to start out and say, wanting to make more money is not a bad thing. It's a good thing.
Mhm.
But if that is the main focus, you are so right, Matt. You are going to miss out because you're going to come in with a bias window full of dollar signs
Mhm.
rather than a discovery mindset. Because going through this, it's a discovery mindset. And what I want to actually kind of drop in here is because I like to work with organizations. And
Okay.
if you're coming into this, if this is something that's identifying with you, bring your organization along with you, because 60 to 90% of businesses fail because because of human relations.
Yeah.
And so if you bring if you know who you are at the heart of you, and you bring that into your business, and then you bring your team in and you know who they are, you know their values,
Mhm.
you know their core, and then you can develop this core for your business, and then you're moving forward with a unified purpose, and you're building your team up.
Yeah.
Because and also, if people are, money, some people may have chirped up and go, okay, money, they're talking money now. Another thing to remember is, if you like personal development and
Mhm.
professional development, I could look at it as an insurance policy, right?
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
get insurance for things that are important to us. So we're important. People are important, because our businesses cannot thrive and they will not attract people if your people are not happy, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And they're not surviving. So when businesses that focus in on professional development make 20 to 40% more than
Wow.
businesses that don't, because their people can serve customers. The
Mhm.
people that you're drawing in, they're doing it because they're serving from a place of power and confidence. And also, they feel like their company values them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. The company is helping build them up, and that. So is part of the process, and I guess looking at this from an individual perspective and also a corporate perspective or company perspective, is part of it, establishing your own personal core values first. This is, what my core beliefs are, and again, if you're dealing with it individually, it can be more of an I statement, and if it's, the corporate, side of things, it's more of a we type statement. Is that part of the process, on both sides of that?
It is. And it's really, the teams that I've taken through this, is really, it's fun, because individual light bulbs are going off.
Hmm.
And so people are starting to get stronger and confident in them. And as like a business owner, if I know, knowing who I am, I can then take those values into my company, and in my workplace, I am not compromising myself.
Yeah.
And then what happens is, then once the leadership understands this, they've identified this, and it's team building, you
Hmm.
know,
Hmm. Yeah.
at the same time. And then you bring your team alongside and they do this. It's just like one of those synergy type things, because you're just building everything up. And so you're building the team, and then you're bringing everybody kind of in a unity of focus.
Hmm.
And it's fun to see how everybody fits together. And the other thing is when you do this and you discover the strengths of those people on your team,
Hmm.
you get so much more done,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you plug people into doing the things that they're naturally talented at,
Yep.
instead of asking them to do things that just are not their thing. So for example, like, I have learned so much about technology, right? Doing a
Hmm.
business. Oh my goodness, it is not my strength. So it will take me 4 hours to do something where, if it's someone's strength.
Yeah.
It takes them like 20 minutes to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we just get so much more productivity when we pull the team together and we understand them.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. So it's really interesting. We've covered core values and that mindset quite a bit on the show here, and it's always, the successful companies have established their core values. They talk about them. They they instill them in their company, and there's the other side of people, which we don't normally interview those types of people, but maybe they've created their core values and they just sit on a shelf. They never talk about them. They never express them or anything like that. It was just an exercise that they went through. I'm assuming that obviously you've taken people through that process where they establish their core values, and maybe you've talked to people that have said sort of poo-pooed on it, where oh, we've done that before, and maybe I don't need that. Can you explain what the outcome looks like from a company that may have done the core values and actually using the core values, where they came from and where they are now after they've explored that? Like, what are some of the transitions, some of the benefits, some of the realizations that they're now enjoying today that they realized through that process?
Yes. I mostly work with faith groups right now.
Okay. Yep.
So what you see is greater productivity,
mm-hmm.
and you see greater community
mm-hmm.
once they've done this. And you do see new growth individually, and then new growth in their new products that they're not products, but new ministries that they're bringing mm-hmm. forth and mm-hmm. stuff like that. So it sparks creativity. And I think that's something that a lot of companies want to tap into, but it's difficult to do it. So going through this process, and it gives a new freedom. Mm-hmm. Because going through a process like this with your team gives them freedom to discuss and bring things forward in a new way, and it expands communication. And ultimately, it gives people the connection and making them want to be committed and loyalty. So you mm-hmm. see more loyalty rather than people like, oh, this isn't for me anymore, and they drop the 2 weeks notice and they're out the door.
Yeah.
So it really it empowers people, it brings them together, and it puts them on the path to greater success.
Yeah. So that one of the last things that you were talking about there, on the loyalty side of things. I would imagine that this probably works twofold, right? Like you said, if you go through this process and someone realizes, this just isn't the right place for me, it's a good realization for them, and everyone involved. So maybe plucking away a thorn that maybe you had, in the company before, and also from a looking forward perspective, you're bringing in new people. You can present these core values and beliefs to them, so that you make sure that you're attracting a person that has similar interests, similar core values. So you're going to get someone that fits very well with your team as well. Would you agree with that?
Exactly. That opens the door for twofold, for employees that just don't fit mm-hmm. with the company, but are hanging around because they have wanted to hang around. But now this realization gives them the freedom to move on to the next place. And then it also widens the perspective and gives the hiring staff better, they can identify when they need to hire somebody, and they can identify what they need, who they're looking for. It becomes a much clearer picture of, this is the type of person that we're pulling in. And then also, as a interviewee for mm-hmm. a job, if somebody's laying out and showing that they've done this and that they care about their employees enough to say, hey, this is Do you align with this? Does this fit?
Mhm.
For me, that would make me be like, oh, this is the place that I want to be, because
Yeah.
I'm more than a number on their staff.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would imagine I haven't worked for anyone since I've been about 20 years old or so, but I would imagine that companies that present themselves in that way stand out a hell of a lot more than, a company that's just doing the typical, this is what we're looking for, just the typical run of the mill thing. So, you know, you're always trying to stand out in every possible way that you possibly can. And this is a great way to be able to do that while unifying the entire team as well.
Yeah, we're always looking to bring in the superstar talent. And so that gives you an edge, especially in today's world where people are walking away from jobs like we've never heard them before because they're not satisfied.
Yeah.
And so if companies can step up to the plate like this and actually start saying, you know what, I value people, and not just the people we serve, but I value the people that I serve as the owner and in
Mhm.
this company.
Mhm. Yeah, interesting. So let's say that you focused primarily on faith-based businesses, correct? Do you do any other types of businesses at this point at all?
I am open to help any organization that aligns with my values.
Okay. Yeah, love it. Yeah, it's a great way to be able to
um,
even filter your own clients in that's
yeah,
great.
and because my heart really is just, if I can help a business, I can help all the people that are
Mhm.
in it. And so that is my heart. Um, there would have to be an extreme difference in my values for me to say, no, I don't think we're a good fit.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to try this person over here. But yeah, I help faith-based, I help others. I actually got into a Army experiment
Huh.
where I was able to share this information with soldiers. And that was, of course,
Interesting.
it happened in 2019, and then 2020 happened. And
Yeah.
so, but it was so amazing to watch the change happen, because I got to be in person with them twice, and
Hmm.
then the rest was virtual. I only spent a total of 6 hours with them. And at the end of going through this, I said, can you tell me who else needs this? And they said, our whole chain of command needs this.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
And I said, okay, how are you going to implement this? They're like, we're implementing it now, and I'm using it at home with my family.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, love
And
it.
so, and I think that's important to realize, like another factor, if you're a business owner and you're bringing this in to your team, you're not only empowering them to be better in the workplace, you're also empowering them to be better in their relationships
Hmm.
at home and
Hmm.
building up families along with building a business.
Yeah, and that's interesting. There seems to be like a divide, right? This is our work life, this is our home life, and a lot of the things obviously don't translate back and forth. But being open to bring these learnings, bringing the personal involvement, home. I love that. I never really thought of that. Um, as far as the Army is concerned, that's really an interesting use case, I guess. You picture all these guys that are all machismo and can't hurt me, and then you bring them together with their core values. And that, were you working with like a team of people, or was this individual people that came together to learn this process for their own personal benefit? I'm curious the context there. How did this group of people come together?
So the Army has the Army Excellence Center, to where they bring in, and this it's where they test new equipment
Hmm.
that they're considering fielding, and they're testing new ideas. So I was picked up with a company who had been selected to test their performance enhancing
Hmm.
behavioral change, and with soldiers. And so this was soldiers, which happened to be a just kind of thrown together squad of infantry soldiers. So it's
Okay.
all infantry men, younger, not like, well, they were a range of 18
Okay.
to like their late 20s.
Okay.
And so they were thrown together. They weren't even actually working together, but they were just thrown together for this experiment. And so that was my group.
Okay.
I was literally bringing a group that wasn't truly a team yet together. And between the actual physical performance that the one team was working with them, and me working with them with mental and mindset performance, it was meshing together. And that's
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
So what did that, I guess, what did that look like? Again, you have these individuals that I'm sure have all of their own upbringings. They don't necessarily, I mean, I guess they do have, similar interests because they're all in the army and that, but they might be doing completely different things, in that context. Was there any type of similarity between their mindsets, where that what they felt was important, or did they come to an agreement that yes, these are our core values as a group, this might be the only time we're together, but we all agree that this is the sort of the guiding principles that we're going to use in our lives moving forward? Did they all come together and agree on that?
Well, I didn't get to go through my core process with them.
Okay. Okay.
What I was hired to do was to take them through the DISC,
Okay.
and then to give them other team building. But of course, I threw my principles into it, but they didn't work on it. But I showed them how understanding each other and the different ways that they communicate and the different ways that they look at life,
Mm-hmm.
that through those lenses, that they would be able to, appreciate one another more and be able to actually work together in a better way and communicate well. Because if there's one thing we will all need to improve on until the day we take our last breath, it is our ability to communicate.
Sure. Yeah.
Because we all communicate, and it's more than what comes out of our mouth. It's our facial expressions, it's our body language, it's everything. But so they improved their communication with each other, and they were able to recognize the different focus that people had. So there's the what people and the who people. The who people are all thinking about people and who they're going to be with and what they're going to do with people, and people are on the top of their brain.
Yeah.
Then there's the what people, who want to know all the details about how we're going to make something happen and the tasks that are at hand. The Army is very task oriented, but do you know that 80% of people are people oriented?
Interesting.
So I kind of help them understand why they struggle at times with the Army's way of doing things. But it's just awareness. A lot of life is awareness. And once you become aware of something, you can navigate it with so much more clarity, confidence, and grace. And so I watched this team come together and appreciate one another.
Yeah, love it.
Which doesn't normally happen.
Yeah.
You've got the dynamics. And my best story is, and it just keeps coming to my mind, Matt, so I think I'm supposed to share it. So one of the younger soldiers was, English was his second language. He was originally from, I believe it was Japan. And I had them go around to quotes and the room and stand by the quote that means the most to them, and then share with the group. And he went to a quote, and he was all by himself, but everybody else was, partnered up. So I went over and I was talking to him. I said, okay, so tell me about this quote and why it means something to you. And I can't remember the quote at this point, but it was a total flip on how I perceived the quote. And he says, this quote reminds me that because of who I'm with, I am a bad A.
Mm-hmm.
ASS.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And this kid went from saying almost zero in the group to just coming alive. He goes, he goes, I'm a bad,
Yeah.
because of who I serve with.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
And I was like, wow. And so I asked him if he would share with the group, and he did. And everybody just came right around him, and they had no idea that, he felt that way because of them, because he grew up constantly being bullied.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
so
That's amazing. That's really, really cool. So if I wanted to take steps, to go through this process, what type of information would I need to bring to the table? Do I need anything, or is it just an open mindset and willingness to learn, these skill sets?
really, it's just like an open mindset, one, willingness to learn, and a plan to do the work.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because so many people will come and they'll listen to something, they'll gather information, but they never make the appointment with themselves to do the work.
Yeah.
And I can talk to you all day about things. You can do personal assessments and everything. But if you take them and you put them on the shelf, it does you no good.
Yeah.
So being intentional about moving forward afterwards, and really, I always say, bring someone along on the journey with you,
Mm-hmm.
because then you have an accountability partner.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And are you doing these virtually today, or are they in person?
My next class is virtual, just because I'm in Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to limit myself to just the Alaska group right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, my next one is in April, and I limit these to 20 people, because I don't want the group to be so big that people are intimidated to
Mm-hmm.
connect.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, so I just keep rolling them out. And
I love it. Yeah, that's great. That is great. Sherry, if people wanted to learn more about you or your services, what would be the best way to learn more or reach out and get in touch?
Right now it's at my website. So it's my name, sherryeifler.com. And on there, you can explore and find all the things that I'm offering. If you're specifically interested in the core or the masterclass, just go in the search button and write core or
Mm-hmm.
masterclass, and it'll take you right to where you want to find. Because I will admit, there's a lot on my website, because I'm an author and a speaker. So I've got books and all sorts of stuff there. But
I love it. Love it. Sherry, this is a topic that I could go on and keep talking more about. So maybe one of these days we'll have to have you back on again, and we can, dive into some more specifics. But this has been fantastic. Love learning about, how other people are making themselves better, and, the learnings and teachings, from those experiences. So kudos to you for bringing that to people's lives. Love it.
thank you so much. This has been a joy to talk with you.
Oh, no problem.